Welcome to the Connected Life Book Club podcast with Summer Shepherd.
That's me.
And Nikki Corbin.
Hey, hey.
Welcome to your place to connect with a good book, with God, and with each other. The Connected Life Book Club podcast.
Welcome back to what I can't even believe is the final episode of season 5. Where has the time gone? I feel like this one has just absolutely flown by.
Yeah.
So first, before we do anything else, Nikki, thank you so much for joining me and going on this journey. I've enjoyed it, and I know
so much
everyone else
fun.
has. Yeah.
So much fun.
Well, this is the wrap-up of Lost Women of the Bible. We have done a 6-week journey, and so if you haven't caught any of those previous episodes, make sure and give those a listen. But we are just sitting down, very casual, like socially distanced in the sense that you're in Duluth, Minnesota, and I'm in Wisconsin.
Very, very socially distanced.
Oh, technology. But as always, with our final wrap-up episode, we want to jump in with a very important question. Like this needs to be addressed off the bat. First things first, Nikki Corbin, what is in your cup?
I love this. So I have a packed day, like full of meetings. I've also felt a little like stressed lately. So my go-to when I'm stressed, honestly, is a peppermint mocha. It happened in college. It was during finals. It was seasonal. I thought I'd do it. And I sat down with this peppermint mocha and suddenly life was okay. And from then on, here I am. So I have a peppermint mocha, but I also have another cup and it's full of water because I'm trying to drink more water. I'm trying.
Good girl.
Trying.
I love that about you. And you know, it's just one of those random facts that you file away in your brain about people. It's like Nikki Corbin likes peppermint mochas. I remember that
Love
from
them.
some sort of summit or something that we were at that I learned that fact. And it's something that for whatever reason, I will never forget about you. That you're my peppermint mocha girl.
I'm okay with that because that means that someday we'll be together and then maybe you'll be like peppermint mochas. Yeah.
Yeah. She's like, then maybe next time you'll bring me a peppermint mocha. I will do my best. I promise. Oh my goodness. Okay. So what's in my cup? You know what? I actually want to tell you what's in my cup. And so I need to go grab the loose leaf tea container. So I feel like I need to report this fairly. So hold on.
She seems so fancy with the loose leaf tea. We tried a tea bomb last night. Have you heard of those?
No.
So have you heard like the hot cocoa bombs where you like put it in your cup and you pour hot water or milk over it and then it kind of explode? That a tea bomb, it was like that too. And it was filled with like this tea that is supposed to dissolve and some other fun stuff. There's a lot of stuff though still in your cup. So that was the thing.
Yeah, that's the hard part with loose leaf tea. You got to have the right sort of container for it. Now, anyone who's listened to this before knows that my go-to is actually salted cream, cold foam, cold brew, light ice, hold the caramel from Starbucks, right?
Woo!
Right. Well, I started making my own of those, which saves a lot of money. And I'm actually meaning to write a blog to share with everybody about how to do that on the cheap. Starbucks may come for me after that, though. But at any rate, we're recording this and it's in the afternoon. So I am also trying to be responsible. And so I already had coffee today. So I'm having this loose leaf tea that Pray For Me expired in 2010, but I figure dry tea, right? Like, does it ever really go bad?
2010.
2010. Yeah, I don't have very much loose leaf tea. So if anybody has recommendations, I'm trying to up my tea game. It's called Queen's Choice, and then pretty much everything else on here is in Polish, so I don't know much about it. But the little bit that's in English says a blend of black tea, green tea, safflowers, and cornflowers, very attractive and colorful in appearance, delightful in taste with a touch of strawberry flavor. So
yummy. So is it delicious?
I think so. It's a little hot for me to drink, but I have tasted it before and it delighted my senses
and you're
as expired
still alive.
As it is. I am. So I survived it the first time. I am walking in faith that that's going to happen again. All right. So what's in your cup? You can let us know on Facebook, by the way, if you are jumping in on this conversation. We always like to start this one with that question because the whole idea of this episode is that you just settle in and you join us for a comfy, cozy, candid conversation on what you thought of the book. And so, Nikki, did you have, as we have wrapped up our 6-week study, specific thoughts that you are just left with having finished this book?
Oh, man. I think overall, I'm just really inspired and encouraged and, just encouraged to be bolder and with the confidence that like God is behind me, that God sees me, that he wants me to be who he created me to be. And that doesn't mean that I am created to be behind a curtain, or however I feel. We're supposed to be out there. We're supposed to be serving and helping and, together pointing people to Jesus, and so but that doesn't always mean that you are second to somebody else, that we're empowered to just be and be bold.
Yeah, that's good. Empowered, I think, was the word I would ascribe to this book too. I'm going to tell you, I wasn't sure going into it how this was going to play out, because when I pick up a book that claims to open just a door to the stories of women that the Bible has left to be lost or that we've lost in our interpretation, it's like, okay, how much are you really going to be able to bring me that's new and that's biblically sound? I think a lot of agenda-driven people have sought, maybe with the best interest at heart, to handle scripture in such a way that supports, their worldview, and they find things, but then as a result, they leave other things out and they twist this meaning to mean this. And so I really wasn't sure if this book was going to do something like that. And I was a little nervous because I chose this book, right? But I chose it without reading it so we could do this together. So I'm like, am I going to lead people astray? But I was really encouraged with how Carolyn really handled the subject matter. I feel like she gave it a fair shake. I feel like she did her research. And I felt like I learned so much from this book.
Oh, yeah.
And there was a lot that I walked away with so many times. I'd be sitting down with one of my friends, I'm like, let me tell you this book that I'm reading. And I would just pull it out and quote different things because it was this discovery for me. Yeah. Someone who has a theology degree. I felt like I was discovering things for the first time and could go back to scripture and really back up what she wrote. That was important to me. So yeah, that was something that really resonated, was that I think I was surprised at how much I actually did get from this book. Which characters really resonated with you? I mean, so I would say, which did you see yourselves in the most, and which maybe challenged you the most?
I think one of the chapters that I really hit me in the heart was Hagar. So it's not that I have her experience. I am not part of the marginalized group or, what would be considered invisible. But I do resonate with this idea that she felt lost. Like she, your identity is a little bit lost. I'm actually working through that and wrestling through that right now. I'm a mom and I'm, just part of that. And I've kind of lost myself, I think, along the way. Also being a people pleaser. I think I just tend to do that. You know what I mean? And so this idea that she, ran away. She was just tired of it all and ran away. And then like God met her there and she was like, oh my goodness, El Roy, like you are the God who sees me. And it was such a heart moment for me too, that I was like, wow, that's me. That's me too. Even though it's not exactly, the situation. So Hagar was a big one for me.
She was definitely one for me too. And I think for me, the reason she resonated so much is I consider her plight in light of today's society and just how beautiful a reminder that was, that we serve a God who doesn't see marginalized people the way society does.
Yeah.
They're not second-class citizens to him. The fact that out of everyone he could have chosen, he chose someone who it was just a perfect storm of discreditation. I don't know, whatever. Like, I mean, she was a woman. She was a slave. She was someone's property. And she was disgraced and disowned by her owners. Like, I mean, that's even, low for slaves. And so like she had everything going against her. She was an unwed mother. For every reason, she was exactly the opposite of who you would expect God to appear to. But he didn't only speak to her. He spoke to her in a significant and unique way in Scripture. She was the first one to give God a name. And that name is he sees me, and he's the God who sees even me. And just like you, I'm not one of those marginalized peoples, but it just does my heart so much good in that to really appreciate what a big deal it was that he chose Hagar. So she was definitely one, I would say, that challenged me. Tamar challenged me. I admit that she had... Oh, yes.
Me
she
too.
She was always such a bad girl, like in the Bible, right? That's what they say. Right. And hearing her story in the same way, but opposite, Esther challenged me because I'd never considered her to be terribly flawed. Mrs. Noah, I didn't even know I could know anything about her, and I thought that was really enlightening. Even the chapter on Eve in the first place, because I'm definitely guilty. There was a lot in this book that I'm like, ooh, came face to face with a lot of my own presuppositions and prejudices. So that was a good thing. And but I would say something that jumped out to me as someone I related to was the chapter on Mary of Nazareth, which you feel like a little comparing yourself to the Blessed Mother Mary is
right.
But for me, it was Joseph. Like it was Joseph in that chapter. It's like I have a Joseph. I'm in public ministry. And just to appreciate the partnership that Mary and Joseph had, that Joseph was happy to come alongside and do his duty that God had laid out for him to do, and to sacrifice and really support the ministry. His ministry was to support the ministry that God had given Mary. Yeah. And so I just appreciated that there was an example where it wasn't necessarily the man who had the primary calling and the relationship and the woman dutifully followed. Because I have felt sometimes backwards, or like, we somehow didn't fit the proper mold because I'm more out front than my husband is. And so that chapter actually really encouraged me. And oh my goodness, it was Mary of Nazareth, so it's like, talk about, an impressive example. So that was good to my heart.
Yeah, I really do love, just so many things. I loved learning about the Azer. I loved learning about the Blessed Alliance. And that's a fantastic example of Blessed Alliance. And also this idea that, yes, husband and wife can be a Blessed Alliance, but this idea that it can be more than that too. In fact, it is more than that. It's supposed to be more than that. We are supposed to come alongside each other, man and woman alike, and just be that support in ministry. I really appreciated that. I love the context nature of all of this. We kind of did talk a little bit about that too, but it changed so much for me in learning about these women and putting things into context, and that perspective was huge. And so some of the questions that I honestly was left with was like, what am I missing about the other women? I'm so excited to kind of look through that and reread and really try to put that context and perspective in it.
Oh, that is so good. Yeah, I've often wondered, I'm like, okay, I wonder if she'll ever come out with like a sequel to this, including like other lost women of the Bible. Right. I just feel like there are so many other stories that we must be missing. And so that was a question I had, talking about questions we were left with. We put this out there to you as well to let us know what some of those questions were. And I feel like everyone wants to know who the author sees herself in, what that connection was to these women, what the impact was, why she wrote this book. And I really want to know how it was received, because, I went into this as a pretty open-minded woman, a pretty empowered woman, still being a little nervous, not sure what I was going to find. And so I can only imagine that it was probably even more than that in the general public. And so this had to have been a hard book to present, especially to the church. And so I'm wondering how it was received. And so we have questions, you have questions, And there's really only one place we can reasonably find the answer. So we are super excited to welcome on to this episode the author herself, Carolyn Custis James.
Yeah.
Woo! Carolyn, welcome. I'm so glad that you're here. You know, Nikki and I have actually been really looking forward to this episode for this conversation because this book has just blessed our socks off. Now, I am curious, though, would you say the reception for this book was, I don't know, generally positive?
No, there's this debate going on about women in the church, and they're not talking to us. And I read so many books where I felt like I was on the outside looking in. And so both groups, when they read your book, if you write a book about women, they're looking for their language. They're looking for me to say women are to follow and men are the leaders in the home and in the church. Or they're looking for, at the end of the book, for me to put a stake in the ground, either pro or con women's ordination. And I read so many books like that. And when I get to that statement, I would think, you haven't been talking to me this whole book, you know, and all of us need to talk. But if they read your book and they don't find their language, they are brutal on both sides. But I can tell you that my husband has been fired from his job because of this very book. My family has essentially shoved me out over what I do. It's a very empowering message for women, and my work has only gotten stronger in that.
I'm so sorry to hear that, Carolyn. What got you started on this journey? Why is it a passion for you at all?
At first, I was just asking questions for myself, and then I started noticing other women's stories weren't playing out according to the recipe, whatever that is. And what about little girls, and what about elderly women? You know, who's challenging them that their stories matter right now, not down the road, or it doesn't end at some point when, you know, your kids are grown and out of the home. What's the vision? And this was my first stab at asking that question for all of us. I mean, it just gets stronger the more I study. And two other books where one that was waiting to be written when I wrote this one is called The Gospel of Ruth. The study of that book, it went off like a bomb in my life, because we always hear it as a Cinderella story. And the Bible isn't teaching Cinderella. You know, it's for the real world. And we're talking about a young woman who would in today's world be probably Muslim. She's from Jordan. And she's the person God is using to move his purposes forward for the world. And new scholarship on the book of Ruth just blows it open. The book is called The Gospel of Ruth, Loving God Enough to Break the Rules. And after that, I wrote Half the Church, which took the questions globally. So it's, you know, they want you to take sides in the debate. And I feel like they're not asking deep enough questions. They're not asking big enough questions for us. They're not asking questions. Okay, so if your husband is the leader and he loses his job or he gets sick because of COVID and you have to find a way to support the family, are you doing the wrong thing? Or are you doing exactly what God called you to do? Bigger questions need to be asked. You know, there was a group of middle school girls who said that they were in a Christian school, and they said, we would like to read something deeper. And she said, well, let's do Lost Women of the Bible. And I heard that these little girls were working through this book, and I wanted to meet them. And it was unforgettable to sit around the table with these little 6th, 7th, and 8th grade girls and listen to them talk about their passion for God's call on their lives.
I just got chills.
Yeah, it makes me tear up to talk about it, and then I hear from elderly women who are in assisted living. And they said, I thought my story was over. Mm. And here is a mission field nobody else is touching.
I think one thing that we've seen is how many, even just within our study, are being impacted, are being challenged by this book, because we do have a lot of us, we come to the table with that cultural notion, especially as church members, of men lead, women follow. And I didn't realize before reading this book how much of that I personally held. I felt empowered. I felt, I'm a modern woman, et cetera. But there was a lot that I read that was like, oof, like, okay. I didn't even realize I didn't see it that way. And so it challenged me and my perceptions in the best way. And a lot of women have reached out and said, I wasn't quite sure about this book. I didn't know what to think. But honestly, it's blowing my mind. I'm a bit surprised at the harsh criticism you're saying that you've gotten. Once people read the book, I feel that goes away, at least in our experience that we've seen. And you say that people have ostracized you and your husband's lost jobs. What argument are they clinging to? Why is it bothering them so much?
Well, it would help them if he would shut me up, and what they don't realize is he's the one who opened the doors. And because when we first got married, I'm a pastor's daughter, and I grew up in the church, and my mother said to me, when I was heading off to college, and she said, you will follow your husband. And I just thought, well, I'm glad for the heads up, because I want to know where he's heading before I sign on, because I was learning and studying, and it mattered to me what I had learned and what I was, just things I was discovering that were changing my life. And I thought, well, I don't want to make a U-turn, and I want to I want to walk with him. And I didn't get married for 10 years. So I felt like I didn't have a story. Who am I following? I'm in an apartment by myself and, supporting myself and protecting myself. Nobody's here to do all that for me. Who am I? Am I missing what God created me to be? And when we got married, I thought, well, I know how this works. He was in seminary, and I knew I would work to support him till he finished. I had no idea he was going to finish his master's degree and get 2 doctorates after that. So, but he, what he said to me right in the first few weeks of our marriage, he said, you need to find out what your gifts are and what God wants you to do with your life. And I'm not the answer to that question. Mm. And he has challenged me and pushed me and opened doors for me. He's the one who opened the door for publishing, because, no publishers were calling me up, but they go to the seminaries and they talk to the professors, and he was one of them. And he said, I think you might be interested in what my wife is doing. And, I just feel like there's more for us to learn about what Jesus has done and how he's recovering that vision and how big it is and how it asks more of all of us and how it means we don't know where God is doing the biggest things in the world. It could be in an assisted living facility. He uses, in the Bible, he'll use little children. He'll use a leper.
He'll use a Hagar.
He'll use Hagar. Yeah. I mean, he's subversive. He doesn't always pick the big shots. In fact, I think he probably rarely. We don't know what God is doing. We don't know what conversation we're having that may ripple out beyond anything we would ever imagine. We don't know.
We don't know. And as you studied this, I think you brought so much to this book that made me aware of all of the things that I didn't know. I went to Bible college, like I graduated with a degree in theology, and yet so many of these facts that you brought to light about the lives of these women and the culture that they're from, that's something we miss a lot when we consider that, Jesus was blonde hair, blue eyes, little, American. But I mean, but the reality is like understanding the context is so valuable. And so I just really appreciate all that you put into this and the freedom that it grants so many people as they consider Christ's vision for them, apart from marriage and babies.
Jesus deserves all we have and all the opportunities and privileges. Right. Yeah. What are we thinking? And, that I get married and then I pull back is now my husband didn't want me to pull back. He wanted me to press on. No, I was going to tell you, I was a secretary when we were first married. That's how I was paying the bills. And he went out and he bought me this book.
Secretary today, manager tomorrow.
I love
He's
it.
Such a Joseph. I love your husband. I don't know him, but I think he's such a Joseph.
He is, and
that's
I
really
did
great
that.
Example of that blessed alliance. Yeah,
100%.
Well,
wow.
He grew up with a single mom and a lot of poverty and some pretty rough circumstances. Mm-hmm. And he saw his mom never have an advocate, never have anybody believe in her or, and he wasn't going to let that happen to me. And it has been so life-giving. The vision is very big. It's big, and it's not like the rest of the world does things. It's big.
And I love how you bring the context and perspective into this book. Like early on, you actually had brought in a story about a deaf man and how he helped you see that there are different perspectives, and that is, what we should be angling to. And I just wonder, as you're talking about your husband too, I'm like, well, he was living from his perspective and what was important, based on that. And so I feel like you have really pushed us to consider the perspective of, each of the people, male, female, whatever, from reading this book. How would you recommend that us just in our daily lives, how do we keep perspective at the forefront and try to learn and respond based on that?
I think it means everything matters. You've got 4 little kids at home. Home is a kingdom front line. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times women feel behind the scenes and, other people maybe are able to pursue their careers or whatever, and they aren't able to, but, everything matters. When we are part of what God is doing in the world, there's not a single moment that's insignificant. Shame on people who call us to be less.
Oh, and Carolyn, I just appreciate so much that you took so much thought and care in writing this book, in the research you did, and just how that opened our eyes and really helped shape the context and what that did for me, what that's done for our listeners, what I'm sure that's doing for your daughter and the daughters of all of us. And I just want to thank you so much for the work and the love and the heart that you put into this and into all your studies and into this conversation. Thank you for meeting with us here and sharing your thoughts. And it's been a blessing.
I thank you. I thank you for opening the door for me. And I thank you for using my book and encouraging other women to read it. And I'm glad they were a little bit nervous when they started.
It's healthy, I think, to be a little bit nervous.
Agreed.
That shows that tension there, shows why it's so important. It's the tension. So thank you again so much for your time. And it was our pleasure to go on this journey with you, Carolyn. Truly.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, that was awesome. That was so good. I'm so glad she made the time for that. Smart women, man. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, Nikki, we have one final question that we need to discuss as we wrap up our beverages and, call it a day.
Yeah.
Did you like this book?
Be honest. I really did. I was skeptical, when we first started this because of all the reasons we had already addressed, but it's just that perspective changer. And it's a game changer. Truly. It was good.
Yeah. I did too. I liked it. I liked it a lot. I learned a lot. This was, there is those books that you read and you like them because they make you feel good. And this one definitely did that. But I liked how challenging it was. And so I want to read it again. And I want to go even slower. We only covered 2 women a week, but I still feel like I want to sit down with my Bible and some reference books. Yeah. I want to take this apart. And I feel like I could read this over and over and still walk away with something new until every page is just going to be fully highlighted. Like I have enough highlights already, but I know I missed some stuff.
Right. There is still space in the margins for us to write. We got to fill that up.
This is good. And I do want to check out some of the other work that she's done because I appreciate the due diligence I feel like she put into her work. So that is awesome. Well, we hope that you liked it, but you know what? You didn't have to. That's the cool thing about a book club is we're not bringing you a book being like, oh, you are going to love this. It's going to be your new favorite book. If you didn't, oh my goodness, let's talk about it. That's, I think, where some of the most dynamic conversations come from. I'm going to tell you, we haven't loved every single book that we've studied with this book club. Like there's one in particular, and I won't throw under the bus, and I'm like, meh, it was okay. Like, meh. And, and I think that is appealing and that's honest. And we want to have those honest conversations. So if you didn't like the book, if you took issue with it, if you loved it, let us know. Join us on Facebook. And now, even though this study is technically wrapped up, the community is not. And so the community aspect is still available on Facebook. And we hope that you keep checking in. And if you haven't signed up officially, there's never a time where it's, too late. You can access all of the podcasts, all the discussion guides, the Facebook community, whenever you want. So jump on to connectedlifebookclub.com for more information.
Yeah, Summer, it's been so much fun to join you on this podcast and be a part of this community. And I can't wait to stay connected, and I can't wait to be listening in for the next season of the Connected Life Book Club.
Oh, well, don't get too comfortable staying away because I am sure that we're going to be calling you back to join us again. You have been awesome. So, well, thank you, Nikki. And thank you, listening, for joining with us. We hope that you subscribe to the podcast. Let us know what you think of it. Go ahead and rate it. It helps other people to find it. And again, this has just been such a fun and rewarding journey. Be blessed, and we will catch you on the Facebook page.
Join us next week for more of The Lost Women of the Bible by Carolyn Custis James with Summer Shepherd and Nikki Corbin. Get involved in our Facebook group and sign up for weekly discussion guides when you visit connectedlifebookclub.com today.